Hey, all. Happy Friday on you. John Duffin here, Duffin Media, Duffin Coaching. Welcome, welcome, welcome to JD's KILLA Conversations, where what do we get to do here? What we get to do is throw 3 of my top tips your way to help you do what? Optimize your communications by leveraging your voice. And folks, if you are joining me on Facebook Live, great. Welcome. Thrilled to have you. If you're joining me on replay, that's great. Thrilled to have you as well, too. We welcome everybody. We're also here on LinkedIn Live. Hope you're joining us. If you are, Facebook and LinkedIn specifically. You got something to say, and I hope you do. That sounds like ominous, right? If you got something to say, I hope you have something to say. And when you do, drop it in the comments, because when you do, I'll get to see it, and then I can respond in kind, feature you, and acknowledge you. Hey, we're also on YouTube Live as well, too. So, folks, you're catching the action here live today. Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live. So, typically what we want to do, 3 of the top tips to help you leverage your voice, to present better, speak better, get what you want, improve your results, make things happen. Hey, I'm speaking to anyone today that's going to be speaking to anyone where the conversation matters. The last thing in the world we want to be able to do is have important conversations, whether it is sales related, whether it is employer-employee related, whether it's you as an interviewee trying to land that big job, if you're speaking to an audience, if you're speaking on camera, whatever it is, these are important conversations. So if you want to go back to a replay, a prior replay, we talk about the fact that everything that we try to do has this singleness of purpose. You're focusing on the matter at hand. And when you do, when you focus on the matter at hand, what happens is you're able to have more inherent control, which enables you to be more naturally engaged and sound terrific. So here's your number 1 tip. And I've got, like I said, a fun one today as well, too. A fun one that actually is a little bit ominous. So pay attention as we go, not because I'm all that, but more importantly, I'll explain what can be at stake. Now, the tip is going to be this. We're calling it love connection. If anyone is old enough, and by the way, drop it in the comments. I won't out you in regards to age. But if you're old enough to remember this old syndicated show called Love Connection, bonus points if anybody can give me the host of Love Connection. If you remember that show, well, the fact of the matter is that we're not talking about that. We might, but it's not going to help you a ton in business. And again, it might, but I'd like to get a little bit more direct and on point in regards to the actual connection. And we're going to get to that in just a moment. Hey, folks, I always remind people in regards to why does this matter and what's at stake. And we'll get to that immediately, which is the reminder. Oh, my God, Roberto Yambo. Yeah. Yeah, baby. All right. I am old enough to know the host. I laugh at myself. So the answer is this. Chuck Woolery, legendary game show host Chuck Woolery, would torture these people on camera, establishing a love connection. We're going to get to that love connection in a moment, but I'm really glad you're here. No, the question I always ask, what's at stake? Look, we present, we speak, we ask all the time. We're spending a ton of time with content and preparing, or maybe we're not. We're thinking, oh, I'll just wing it. Big mistake. But I'm going to ask you, have you ever had a conversation, a presentation, an encounter in business where you thought you were all that, all buttoned up and ready to go and felt like you were crushing it, and you received negative feedback and you just couldn't understand why? Has it ever happened to anyone? Feel free, raise your hand. And the fact of the matter is, I will speak for me, not for any of you. It's absolutely happened to me. And by the way, I've been on both sides of the field. Sold a ton, I'm grateful to say, and I'm grateful that I can even say that, right? I've managed my field of expertise, broadcast advertising, digital communications. So that's what I got to do for 25 plus years. So I not only presented, but I've watched people present. I've evaluated presenters, and it can be cringe inducing when you see someone feeling all confident and you feel awful for them because you're like, this is not going where you think it is. So if this happened to you, then I'm speaking to you. And if it hasn't, here's the safeguard in regards to what you can do to make sure it doesn't happen to you. So now we're going to go right back. Roberto and Chuck Woolery, I love that. The tactic, three-way connect, I call it, right? Three-way connect. Oh, brother, Chris Petruski, yay! From a former fellow all-star group who I love to death, by the way. And Chris, thank you so much for your unbridled enthusiasm. It always means the world to me. I think you're such a rock star. And thanks for showing up for me today, man. So here's the deal. When you connect, it is your responsibility to make certain that you are connected to the audience. It's not their responsibility, it's yours. But we're going to go another step further. It's your responsibility that you're connected to the content. The reading out loud part, skip it. Skip it. Stay home if that's the intention of what you're going to do today. Stay home. And then it's your responsibility to connect the audience, the client, whoever you are speaking to that content. All of that is your responsibility, not theirs, not theirs. The fact of the matter is they don't need to catch up with you. They don't need to feel engaged with the parts you feel engaged in. When you say, don't you feel good about this? Well, terrible question, by the way. But the fact of the matter is, it is imperative before you begin that you're aware. You got to connect to the audience. Again, that's on you. You got to connect to the content, what you're speaking about. You have to believe it, feel it. It has to matter to you. And then the audience to the content. It has to matter to them. You have to help them. Don't pander to it. Don't force them to, but make it engaging for them. And these are going to be our 3 tips today, right? So this is what I want to get to focus on as well. And I'm going to start literally top to bottom, right? These 3-way connects that, again, before you have your next meeting, presentation, sales meeting, team meeting, client meeting, whatever the case may be, remember, I got to connect to whoever the audience is. I've got to make sure I feel and believe what I'm saying. And I have to make certain that I help, guide, lead the client, the advertiser, whoever the case may be, homeowner, if you're a real estate person. You have to make sure that they feel it too. It's on you to do so, okay? So, number 1, connecting you to the audience, to the client. I'll ask a question. It's similar to the one I previously asked, but I'll ask the same question, which is, have you been in a room, and again, a room, by the way, is 2 or more people. One-on-one, you get a little bit more control because it's just you and them, and you can engage and connect and what have you, right? But if it's 2 or more people that are in that room, have you ever walked in a room and felt icy? Where maybe the client, the audience, whoever is like, okay, show me what you got. Have you ever been there? I have. I've absolutely had. And I'll explain in a second how you can circumvent that. I've shared this example before, but to me it was worth noting. I was in one of the largest agencies in the United States, in Texas, and how did I know this? They had this massive glass building, Everything's bigger in Texas. They have this massive glass building in the middle of the highway, so you can't miss it. It's ginormous, and it has their name on it. So they're the only one there. Honest to God, it looks like AT&T Stadium, but it was their name on it. So I'm speaking to them late in the afternoon. And we get there early. I'm there with a colleague, and they're showing us around, and it's all beautiful and gleaming, right? So we get and we have the presentation. There's about 12 people. So of the million people that are probably housed in the place, there's probably about 12 people I'm speaking to at this moment. Well, they all come in, and they all sit around. It's kind of late in the day for them and for me, right? I believe I was the last meeting of the day. So they come in, and I'm telling you, this is how it went down, right? They look in. They weren't necessarily rolling their eyes, but they were looking so bored and disinterested. It looked like each and every one of them was having just a bad day, right? Now, that, I'm telling you, I'll just from my own experience, like literally the oxygen came out of me at that time. This is years ago since I've learned how you can help yourself here. But the oxygen came out of me. So I started to feel a little defeated and deflated before this even began. What do you think happens? Now, I barely said hello. Hi, I'm John Duffin, and they're introducing themselves and all that sort of thing. What do you think happens when all of a sudden you're starting to feel a little uncomfortable? How do you think it sounds? Yeah, tense, lethargic, defensive. Yeah, exactly. Look, all of these things, because your mind is starting to play with you and your body's starting to let you down a little bit, so you're starting to sound a little bit defeated. So nobody here is connected. What was the problem? And here's your solution. The very first way to connect with a client is this. The number one. Again, 2 or more people. Find the friendly face. Find the one that smiles. Find the person that is giving. They're always there, by the way. They're always there. Find that person that is giving you at least the courtesy that they're going to give you a shot. Connect with them. How do you connect with somebody? Yeah, talk to them. Right. I'll go even a step further here. My suggestion. Thank you for that. Talk to them. Smile back to them. Acknowledge them. That doesn't make them feel weird and uncomfortable. Right. Thank you. Don't do that. But make them comfortable. They've acknowledged you somehow. Just a basic smile is all you need. Right. Start to talk to them. What does it do? It gets you a little bit more comfortable, gets your bearings, seated or standing or whatever. You start to sound a little bit more natural, right? So keep that going. And when you do, I can almost promise you someone else is going to help you because they want to feel the engagement from you. So you connecting to the audience. How can you make it easy? Don't put people on the spot. Don't just start pandering. Don't just start reading out loud. Okay? Sometimes people get this impression that the best way out of an uncomfortable situation is to blow through it. Read out loud. Read out loud fast. We're at a time of the year and we're approaching a following year where a lot of people are uncomfortable right now. And it comes up all the time when I speak to people. Hey, these are uncertain times. Everybody's a little nervous and uncomfortable. Reward the people that are helping you. And that's how you connect to an audience. Find that singular person. So then you get a little more comfortable. And all that deflating that we talked about, then you start to pump up a little bit. And then your natural energy will, in essence, save the day. Someone else is going to come along. Go to them next. Talk to them. You're allowed to focus on somebody. In fact, you should. Zoom call, live presentation, conference call, anywhere where there is engagement, right? Find the natural engagement. Allow yourself to connect with somebody. And then what happens is you start to feel a little bit more animated, okay? Hope that makes sense, right? And what it can do is take a little bit of the nerves out of the situation, which takes the nerves out of you, which makes your audience or the client more comfortable. So again, you're focusing on whoever is acknowledging you first, and then find the other people, all right? So that's you to the audience. Number 2, you to the content. Look, anything that we talk about doesn't replace preparation, storytelling, knowing the whole story. I want to stay at that third point. Know the whole story. Okay? That's where I want to be today in terms of this you connecting to the content. Here's what I mean in regards to believing in the content, knowing the whole story. For you to connect to the content, you have to know all of the content, right? I used to work for, I can say this with quite ease. I worked for several major communications companies. The last one I worked was 12 and a half years, a giant digital streaming, broadcast advertising. They were a giant, a behemoth. They had research upon people, upon systems, upon databases. That's great. You could create an amazing, powerful, customized, believable, true story. Here's the problem. The problem is this. The problem becomes overwhelming people with data does 2 things, and they're both wrong. Number 1, trying to just bludgeon a client with a lot of facts. They don't want it. They don't want to be inundated. By the way, today's live, one of the people that have inspired me is Wendy Saltzman. So she is a Philadelphia-based speaker, coach. I love Wendy. And one of the things she reminded is this. Nobody wants to be read out loud. I've known this because I've done it and I've heard it and I hate it. Don't read slides out loud. Don't inundate people with data because they're not going to gravitate to it. Even the most intelligent people don't want all of that. I remember the example. We're leading a presentation. I was with a group. 2 of my managers, I'm the one that's leading the presentation, but 2 of my managers, another one of my colleagues. There's about 20 people, or this is another presentation, around the table in regards to Rosalie McKenzie. Anytime Rosalie McKenzie's here, I'm in a better place. Thank you for that. I'm glad you needed to hear it, so I'm happy to help. So you are speaking and you think all of this matters. Well, good for you. It only matters if it matters to them. So let me get right to it. So when I say you've got to connect the audience, here's the thing. When you connect the audience, the easiest way to do it, and I'm not going to say dumb it down, but not every factoid is important. The key is that you believe and know the story. You speed reading through a lot of research. You reading the entire summary sheet presentation out loud is meaningless. Because the good thing is you are not connected to it. I'm going to speak for you even when I don't know you. You want to get through it. You want to get through it so you can get to either the good parts or the end, or whew, that's a relief. Again, this major presentation we're delivering in Philadelphia. The problem, we delivered a 62 slide. How do I know? The client, one of the 12 people around that table, the client notes the slide count at the bottom. And she's like, you're not going to do 62 slides, are you? Maybe. Or it's really good. It's really important data. Here was her response. And I'm a big time fan of this person. She's like, we're not that deep. We're media, we're media advertising people. And she's extremely intelligent, and she was right. So how can you connect to the material so that it works for your audience? Find the most salient points, 2 or 3. You get to one of these slides that literally looks like pie charts, graphs, Excel sheets, 35,000 typed words. Get to the point. Every story has a point. You knowing the whole story helps you not only to improvise, but to edit. You've got this big old slide up. You literally just want to go and say, hey, here's a couple of things here that really matter. To me, why? Make that part. Find the part that matters to you, right? Don't shove it down somebody's throat thinking they need to care. Let's first focus on you, kind of like the airlines and the mask. It's got to matter to you. People hear that. What do you think when people speak, when you know it matters to them, whether it's a personal or a business point, how does it sound when you know somebody cares about what they're talking about? How do people sound? Engaged, yup. Compassionate, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Empathetic too, right? Your voice carries natural emotion. It's the individual that puts that fake passion, fake things. Remember, what's at stake here is you're killing yourself, investing your time, your resources, reading reams of material, trying to make sure that they, whoever that audience is, gets it, so that I can close the deal, finish the year strong, be ready. The problem becomes if you're just shoving words and meaningless raw data, people can hear you don't care. If you don't care, what do you think they're going to do? Right. So how do you solve it? Remember that meeting? 62 slides were not that deep. Here's what we did. This was the solution. This is what I'd suggest. The good news that day, and I learned that became my everyday, was I know the whole point of the story, beginning, middle, and end. Test yourself the next time you have a conversation that matters. Test yourself. What's the point of the story? Number one, how does the story go? Think of it almost like you're a little kid. Think of it in the sense that you begin, big opening. Hey, if you want me to help with blah, 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 I'd love to help optimize your communications because here's what's at stake. But you're not going to stay in that frenetic tone through the whole thing because you'll freak people out. When you tell a story, typically it's like a big beginning, and then you start going through the conversational data, but a couple of points that matter to you, because they'll hear it in your voice. Here's something I thought would resonate, so I wanted to focus on blah, blah, blah. Here's another thing I'd like to touch on. This matters to me because blah, 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 right? People hear the compassion, the empathy, all the words that you just gave me, right? So that's 2 in terms of, right? But to establish a real love connection, you have to help the audience connect to the material. Great that you've now connected to the audience. You found the friendly faces, you acknowledge those people, speak to them a little bit first. You are connected to the content. The story matters to you because of either something personal or something that just makes you feel good or that you feel like you're doing the right thing. And now, how do you help your audience to connect? Okay, I'll give you a clue. Here's one way. Remember we talked about a couple of minutes ago where I'm like, none of these situational tactics are ever going to replace preparation. They're going to enhance it, but they're never going to replace it. Here's the best way that I have learned, and I'll give you an example of exactly what could go wrong and then how you can make it go right. All right. So one of the things that I remember would be the standard media sales presentation. whether I was working with Univision Communications or Tribune or a great independent station in Philadelphia or Greater Media Radio, it was all pretty much the same. I'm so-and-so. I'm with, let me tell you about them. We are blah, blah, blah. Our ratings are blah, 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 blah. Here's some qualitative data that I just basically pulled out. So blah, 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 blah. And therefore, this is why you should buy my station. What was, do you think, the common thread of those 4 or 5 things? I'll help you. There was a lot of me in it. Very little of you. A lot of me. I'm with, I do, we do. Me is right. Ain't that fun? If you're on the other end of that, isn't that delightful? It isn't. You're trying to hit numbers right now. You're trying to get the promotion, keep your job in the boardroom. You have to add value. You don't add value by talking about yourself. You think you might, but here's the problem. This disconnect, this distraction always comes from a place of none of that matters to me. I'm stealing this line from another presentation, but I happen to love it, which is it only matters if it matters to them. It's like a dog whistle, right? And let's say the audience, this is awful, but I'll say it's like the dog, right? We love dogs. They're all great. They come when you call them, blah, 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 Rover. Huh? Blah, 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 blah. Fido. Oh, what? That's how it goes down. The blah, 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 blah part, I defy you to convince me that they're getting any of that. But they get Rover and Fido. Same with an audience, a client. It has to matter to them. So how do you help that? I'm actually doing something right at this moment before this call. I don't mean at this exact second, but what I mean is right before, in terms of helping set the stage for a presentation. Okay, you want to connect with your audience. It is a bunch of smaller agreements before the fact. And that includes the first meeting. You'll be like, well, how do I get agreements for the first meeting? I've never met them, or I've never spoken to them. There's a guy that I'm following right now, Scott Einbinder. If you were anywhere nearby, know that I'm thinking of you. And I'm a big old fan. He's a real estate expert, and he's also a communications guru. One of the terms that he utilized, and I love this, is called, listen up, permission to communicate. You're trying to get permission to communicate so that the audience, will connect to the material. How do you do that? Blindly coming in and just talking isn't going to help you. Done it. Remember that big Texas gleaming boardroom meeting? I just go and start talking. The typical, hey, here's a little bit about me, my station, my Philadelphia market, this about me, here's that. The one person literally was falling asleep in front of me. And I have to keep going, and she's not waking up. So I could do like the typical awful things. Hey, doesn't this matter to you? Or I could do what I did, which was just die 1,000 deaths. Race through the meeting, leave, sound asleep. She got up to leave. It's not like they left her in the conference room, but sound asleep. And then I leave and I'm angry at her. How dare she? Here's why. She wasn't connected to the material in any way. How do you solve that? Any sort of communication prior. You want that permission to communicate. You want that ability to be able to really engage. Here's how. When you confirm your meeting, your phone call, hey, we're going to talk today, 3 o'clock. Here's what I'd like to cover. A couple of things. Don't bludge them. A couple of things. Am I headed in the right direction? Is there anything I'm missing here? Did I leave anything out? Help them. Don't make it all on them. You can help yourself. Again, the preparation is key. You might see something on a website. You might see something newsworthy about, the individual or the company. You might check their social media profile. Ask them a question. Hey, I saw that you were speaking about this or talking about that or whatever the case may be. Would you like me to be there? Most people will answer that question. And when they do, nah, you're fine. You just cover whatever you want to cover. That's great. Or, no, I don't find that relevant anymore. Or I'll give you one more example. Thank you, Rosalie. Thank you. Or one more example, which is, oh, you know what? We haven't updated our website in a while. One of the largest advertisers that we had, I think I just slurred that, advertisers. Let me try that again. One of the largest advertisers that we had as a market in the station, we're going through the website and they say to us when we come in with the presentation, oh, we have a new logo. Okay, that's great, but we took that off your website. Now, I could have asked, hey, I want to make sure this is where we're headed in the right direction. There was no need to get into a confrontation about their logo. But what I'm saying is this. If you do a bunch of small agreements, you can be a pain here because what's the worst thing that can happen if you're asking a question prior, right? By email, by phone, or text, or whatever the case may be. What's the worst thing that can happen if you send it to them? No. No, it's not that they're going to cancel you. They're not. Unless you ask them an awful question. But they're not. You know what the worst thing I found for me? I'll just speak for me. The worst thing I found is they don't respond. Okay, you tried. So I'd say stack the deck so that they are in a place where they can respond. So that ability to connect, here's how it sounds, folks. Here's exactly how it sounds. You come in, you're ready to tell the story. Whatever the salient few storytelling points are, have to do with whatever the acknowledgement was. Hey, Marcy, here was one of the things we discussed, are you cool that we go here? No wrong answer. Here's what happens. Remember that Fido? Oh, great. It's an acknowledgement and it helps them to connect to whatever you're saying or doing. So when you want to come in for the close, when you want to come in to conclude, you are adding to the energy. You've connected with the audience. You've connected to the content. You've helped the audience connect to the content. Again, those preset agreements, and then you bring it up. How do you think that sounds when someone is I'll just play the part of me here. Quite a reach, I know. But when I play the part of me, and it's like, okay, Marcy, you remember when we were talking about this, blah, blah. So I wanted to address that with whatever. It typically sounds, what do you think? Confident, knowledgeable. You listened. You've listened. They get it. People love when they are acknowledged. People love when you listen. So when you connect all of the dots, what I wanted to demonstrate today is it's not that hard. However, it is vital that you do so. It only matters if it matters to them. You're not talking at people. You are finding commonality. You have to know and believe in what you're saying. Find the part that matters to you. Don't orchestrate it. Don't manufacture emotion. But find the part that matters to you and allow them, help your listener, your audience, the client, help them get there. Don't pander to them. Help them get there organically. And I'm telling you, when you do, you're going to be in a place where you're communicating. You get that love connection. Heck, Chuck Woolery might even walk in. But regardless, it's a much easier path to the finish line when you've got this three-way connection. So picture the three-way adapter, a bunch of plugs inside. Picture that the next time you're speaking. Today, try it. Literally try it. And each time you speak, remember, it only matters if it matters to them. So that's our 3 tips for the day. And I went a little long today. Typically, I tighten this to 30 minutes. Went a little bit long, so I thank you for hanging in with me. So here's the deal. You want to go a little further? You want to go a little bit more in depth? Can I help you individually? Well, you can find me easily. See that QR code? That gets to my website. All of my contact information is there. Click the QR code. Get there, I'm telling right now. And when you do, when you reach out to me, I'm going to get you a PDF that I've created with a few of these bullet points on there as it regards to today. So make it easy on yourself. Click the QR code. When you are ready to speak further, we can have a 30-minute discovery call. That's on the house. But what we would cover is how I can work with you more closely, how I do this, how literally I'll learn how I can specifically help you and then show you the path for you to get there so that you are optimizing your communications by leveraging your voice. And when you do, you take out a lot of the risk or a lot of that fear or discomfort of your next call, your next meeting, your next presentation, your next interview, right? These are uncertain times. What I'm seeking to do to help you is literally make you a little less uncomfortable so that when you're speaking, you're going to increase your odds of either keeping your seat at the boardroom table, keeping your job, increasing your income so that you're not carrying this heavy burden. A lot of people are. So that's where I'm trying to help. Does anybody have any questions before we wrap up today? Well, let me tell you this. Any questions whatsoever, I am pretty easy to find on social media, but I'm also going to real fast. I should have done this. Me typing looks weird, but in the meantime, I'll make it easy for you. That's me, by the way. jd@duffinmedia.com. Email me live or replay whenever, right? You need me for anything. I'm very grateful to help. Rosalie, I'm very grateful for you, not only for showing up, but for your unbridled enthusiasm and passion. I think you're such a rock star. So, folks, I thank each and every one of you for helping me today. Means the world to me. And the fact of the matter is, reach out. If I can help you further, I'm happy to do so. Systems, the blueprints, they're there. The best part is I get to customize them. So have a wonderful Friday. You are absolutely, thank you for that. It means the world to me. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Try some of these tricks this afternoon. Try. 3-way connection. Think of that adapter. Think of the 3 plugs. One last time. You to the audience. You to the content. Help the audience embrace the content. All of that's on you. Sounds daunting? It isn't. Is it important? It's crucial. So, folks, have a fantastic rest of the day. Much love to all of you. Be well. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.